So I snuck in briefly for the last talk, just to kind of get a sense of what you're all hearing and what type of information that you're receiving, so that I can better gauge what I'm providing to you. So just to start off, I'm just curious, what type of information do you hope to hear from me today? We have 30 minutes, so what types of things would be nice to hear about? Maybe that you either didn't get from previous speakers, or knowing that I'm from CAPS, maybe there's some types of things that might be helpful to hear.
If you could talk about, maybe, I don't know, about resources available to us, practical ways of getting our hands on some techniques or exercises or something that can help us deal with actual presentation day, when we're dealing with stress, when we actually have to go out there and we're thinking, okay, besides breathing, what I can do to get myself, I'm going to try to breathe through it, but besides that, what else can I do, or where can I find information just to...
Okay, so you're good on the breathing. All right. Other things? Okay. Well, if there are, feel free to jump in and ask me any questions, and we can go from there. So did anyone first just talk about the anxiety performance curve? Have you seen or heard that?
Your Keith Hudson?
Is that it? Yeah. Okay, so in general, I guess the reason why I'm showing this is stress, anxiety is not a bad thing, right? In moderation, like everything else in the world. So if this is the amount of like distress, anxiety, and then this is our performance. So as our distress, anxiety increases, our performance actually increases too. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, and depending on where you're at on your where your homeostasis is, it's going to affect what you need in the moment. So some people might even be on the low end of stress when they go into presentations, which is also not effective, right? So we want an optimal range, which you could probably say is like right in there. And more often than not, you all are here because you fall in like this range. And so that's what we're kind of hitting on, and that's why you hear breathing a lot of times, is because it's to help maintain or bring back your arousal levels to an optimal, most functional level. So just to put that out there, so you know that anxiety is not a bad thing, but everything in excess is, right? So just wanted to put that out there. So tangible tips on what to do, how to do that. I mean, the first thing that I think about is, what are you doing to prepare for your presentation, and not necessarily the content, because I'm assuming that if you're all here in graduate school, you're probably pretty good on the content, the information that you need to give to the audience. But the tricky part that the last speaker talked about a little bit is the presentation of that content. And that's the important piece. And if I think about even my own experiences with like procrastination and things like that, is I will procrastinate, so I'm working hard to fill in that content, to make sure I cover all those things that I need to. So then I spend less time preparing for the actual presentation of that information. So a tip that I have is reserve some time to practice your presentation. And one way to do that is with friends. So maybe the night before, for example, you have all of your content down. Just practicing it will help you work out your kinks and help you be more confident going into it, because you'll know what your weak areas are, you'll know what your strengths are going into it. So it's kind of a practice round. Do most of you already do that with your presentations? Kind of, yes, no, okay. So I would say that's one tangible tip I can give, is practice with a friend or a family member to see how that goes for you. I guess an example in my own life, when I do job interviews, I will do my job interview for a friend or a family member a couple of times, and then I'll ask them to basically just give me as much feedback as they can. And just doing that helps me going in, like, okay, this is my weak area, so I want to cover up, you know, or whatever I want to do. I want to speak through this part, or, right? It's all about the presentation of that content. Yes?
Yeah, the Animal Behavior Pressure Group has a really nice tradition that really goes on this
model, which is that for anything, especially if you're getting ready for an oral, they always set up a mock oral, and they'll pick 2 people representing each person on the committee to represent them and make it even a longer mock oral than the real oral will be. So it's like a super rehearsal.
Another tip that the person from last time mentioned was engaging your audience. So if your audience is grading you, or you're being graded also on your presentation style, the more you engage the audience, the more likely they're going to receive that in a positive manner. So I could sit up here and just talk at you, but it's probably going to be kind of boring. You've probably heard a lot of stuff, but the more that the audience speaks or interacts, chances are they're going to feel more engaged and perceive your presentation as more positive or informational or helpful. Yes?
I have a question. You just mentioned something that as graduate students, we probably have the content part of the presentation down. I know for me at least, when I go to present, there's an anxiety or a worry that I'm going to forget my content once I get up there. So in that case, are there any tips for not necessarily the delivery of the presentation, but just actually staying focused, kind of that I need to say this and then this, I need to touch on this issue? And
I think that one, if you practice it with someone beforehand, that will help with maybe you've completely forgot something, but that's great. You can work out those kinks, work out those errors with someone else so that you can go back and implement that and then make sure the next time. So you'll have some experience with what you might forget. And so then I'm guessing that you'll be more aware of that going into the situation. Maybe an outline of what you want to hit. So bullet points of maybe major areas. And if there's something that's really important that you don't want to forget, maybe even bulleting that as well, even if it's like underneath a major area. I mean, this is really mine, and it's kind of an outline, but like with sentences instead of like bullets, like a word or two. So that's kind of how I do it. That might help you to make sure not to miss something. I mean, you could even like check off what you've hit so far. If you're at a podium, you know, you'll really be able to see.
I have a suggestion. What I've done in the past is, we are usually using PowerPoint. So when I start writing my presentation, I put like everything in my PowerPoint that I want to say. And then as I go through and practice it, I take out things that I see that I'm remembering without looking at my notes. And then I get a presentation that doesn't have a ton of information, but I practiced it with that information in there.
And I'm not sure if you will all be addressing PowerPoint and how to use it to your optimal level, but there is a setting on there where on your screen it shows notes and it shows additional information that's not projected to the main screen. And so you can use that as another guide as you go through it. That can be kind of helpful as a reminder. Yes?
I was looking at the professor's book who spoke last week, and he mentioned that there's such a thing as content overload, and that you could try to say so much, but the audience just can't grasp it all. So you could always keep that in mind. If you leave something out, you probably already said a lot anyway. So a point here, here, doesn't.
Yeah. It's not life or death most of the time.
Most of the time.
Let's see. Taking care of your body. Your body is your vessel. And that's what is your tool to project your information and to do your presentation. So if you are staying up the night before, cramming for this presentation, you're gonna cognitively, your cognitions are gonna be impacted. So if you're limited on sleep, that's gonna impact cognitive functioning. So things like memory retention, accessing that information when you need it, composure, even stress and anxiety will be increased when we're lacking on sleep. So things that you can do to take care of your body at least the night before is get a decent night's sleep, so 8 hours. Eating healthy, so maybe not like, I don't have enough time to go to McDonald's and get me some burgers. That might also be something to avoid, and try to eat something healthier the night before. Fluids, drinking lots of fluids. And then big one, particularly on the day, because my guess is that you're pretty tired from working on the presentation, is caffeine. We try to drink caffeine to create alertness, give us more energy, But if our arousal levels are already in this area because we have this presentation coming, all it's going to do is push us this way. So if there's any way that you can not drink caffeine, that will probably help you as well. Let's see. Self-talk. Going into something, a lot of times what we can fall into is, oh my gosh, I'm going to do so poorly. Everyone's going to think that I suck. You know, all these different types of self-thoughts that we have going into it. Now, it might not sound sincere to you while you're telling yourself, I'm going to do awesome. But the more you tell yourself that, the more you're going to expect that from yourself, and the more it might actually happen. So you can choose if you want to start your path down a direction of I suck and I'm going to do poorly, or you can at least tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do awesome on this. You might not, but at the very least, it's not going to hurt you to think positively. So if you can think to yourself, I'm going to perform well. I'm going, and just, I mean, maybe even write like 3 or 4 of these kind of statements out, and then throughout the day, just tell yourself that. Or if you notice yourself thinking negatively about your presentation, kind of balance it out with a positive statement about it as well. So this is all kind of counteracting some of those things that might get in the way of performing to your PT. Yeah.
I just wanted to say it works, as silly as it sounds, because you're standing in front of your own bathroom mirror and you're telling yourself, I'm going to do fantastic, and in your head you're thinking, no, I won't. It really does work. At some level, I can certify to that. I did it before doing my first triathlon, which I thought is a ridiculous idea on my part, first of all. But I did it, and it worked. It really literally works. It somehow affects your, I don't know, physical performance or your the mobilization of your organism, and it does. Affirmation, saying it out, even I would say, I don't know if you agree, but does saying it out loud helps too? Like, is it a difference between vocalizing it or like writing it down, or?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's a, I don't know if there's any research that's been out there addressing that of itself. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, but I'm not aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I say tell it to yourself in your head is that it'd be kind of weird, you know, walking down, I'm going to kick butt on my presentation. No one knows what you're talking about. So yeah, realistically, saying it in your head will probably happen more as opposed to saying it out loud. But if you do have maybe the space or you want to try to do that, feel free to go ahead. I don't think it's going to hurt. But so yeah, I think that there's definitely different ways of doing it as well. I'm curious, what other strategies or tips have you tried that work? Maybe the day of the presentation.
I never, like, it's the same for an exam or something, a presentation. I never do anything related to the presentation on the same day. I was finished the night before, and I don't do that. Maybe I look at it, and I don't, maybe there's a little.
Yeah, so I think the argument behind that is by the time the day comes, you know what you need to know by that point, and if you don't know it, chances are it will be more effective for you to take a break, give your body, your vessel a rest, so that you can do your peak performance when it comes. So the more you study and the more you focus and the more tiring you get, and the less you have time to, like, even encode and kind of let that information that you've already memorized or worked on sink in. So yes, that's definitely a good strategy to try, especially if you're if you're not procrastinating, is to give yourself some time before the presentation. So maybe it's going for a walk, maybe it's just relaxing, but something to kind of care for your body and to kind of clear your mind. What else?
Well, I'm not saying I'm necessarily an awesome presenter yet, because that's why I'm in the class, but at the most recent talk I gave over the summer, I chose something, fairly conversational to say to kick it off, and then just memorize that and kind of just put the first page or so on autopilot. So when the time came when it was really bright lights, I could just take a deep breath, open my mouth, and say something that hopefully would sound relatively natural. And then, by the time I got used to those bright lights and all those people looking at me, then I'd get to the part that I hadn't exactly memorized and just go for the bullet notes.
Okay. So like have some kind of hook or something at first that will kind of engage or catch your audience.
Well, hopefully, but I was thinking more just to get me started.
Okay, yeah, to get you started, to warm you up, an icebreaker or something.
Yeah, so she's talking about the preparation, but I think
Oh.
another piece that really I find important, especially if I'm in a new place and I haven't been in that building before or that room, I'll usually try to go to the room the day before, or at least that morning, and look at the room and find out what the projection is, and just kind of see where people are going to be sitting, how I'm going to be moving around, or what the PA system is, all those things, so there's not big surprises.
Mhm.
Removing the surprises.
Yes, and I'll move right into another strategy. It's a little bit more complicated, but so it's visualization. This one takes more practice and time doing, but I guess I first learned about it in athletics. So my track and cross country coach was all about integrating these types of things, and so one was visualization. And so what I mean by that is first obviously breathing, getting yourself in a relaxed state, but then taking yourself through the situation that the performance. So whether that be a race or a presentation or taking a test, and visualizing it as you would like it to occur. So I want to do very well in my presentation, so that's how I'm going to visualize it. So you're basically creating a schema, a situation, a scenario in your head, and you're going to more likely follow that if you have one in there. A lot of times we create that schema, like I said earlier, it's a negative one. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to perform poorly. Everyone's going to think I'm unintelligent, things like that. So what I do is I will go to that environment that I'm going to do it in. So it might be a classroom, and just so I can take in, and maybe it's this one, so you already know it. So when I do my visualization, I'm going to get into a relaxed place, and then you're going to want to use all 5 of your senses to get yourself into that environment. So I might imagine what's the sound going to be like before my presentation. So people are going to be walking in and talking, maybe side conversations. People are going to have their name tags up. There's going to maybe be a video camera in the back. All of these things I want to include so that when I go into the actual situation, there's no surprises. I know exactly what to expect, and I know what to expect for myself. So doing that visualization over and over again is going to help you. So I also want to visualize myself going through the whole presentation. So I'll be closing my eyes, and I will visualize myself walking up to the podium. I'll visualize myself, every little details I can think of to make it more real. I want to implement into my visualization. So I want to tell, like, I'm going to be feeling good. I'm going to be standing up there with confidence. Everyone's going to be looking at me with interest. And all of these things I want to just be thinking and going through my presentation. There has been research done on that. For example, one looked at the performance of free throw shooting for basketball players. Well, half of the sample, they got to shoot as much as they wanted for a certain amount of time and to practice, right? So they literally had a ball. The other half of people, they didn't get to touch a ball, but they went through visualization of making the perfect shot. And then what they did is brought them and basically saw whose performance was better based on what they were exposed to. And what they found was the people that visualized the perfect shot actually performed better than the people who actually practiced it. So you can see the power of thinking positively and thinking that you are going to do well and thinking through each of those steps of how powerful it can be. Any questions about that?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
About the details of it. I've kind of the idea before, but is it the idea to make the time match like a 30-minute presentation? Are you visualizing and imagining for 30 minutes, or is it just kind of like bits and pieces and it's kind of compressed, or does it matter?
I don't know if it matters or not. I don't think you have to do it exactly to the timing. It might help you, but as long as you go through the steps, I'm trying to think when I did it for running, if we actually did this amount of time. I don't think we did the amount of time, but we would say, like, okay, you're turning around this bend and you just ran over through this creek and you're at the 5-minute mark.
So like all the phases, even if
Yes.
not every second.
Yes.
I think timing may actually increase, because if you're expected to be on slide 11 at 15 minutes in, and you're at slide 9 at 15 minutes in, you set yourself to go faster.
So it might throw you off.
So I have a question though, too. So when you try to visualize something and you start imagining something going wrong, it, like, sometimes it's hard to stop that imagination. So you need to like cut that off.
And that's where the practice comes in, is that I don't expect you to be able to just lay down, be still, be able to relax, and then just think gravely about this presentation. So what you're going to find is that all of these thoughts, right, our natural thoughts are going to start popping in our head. Like, no, you're not going to do well. You know, these types of thoughts are going to start popping in your head. That's okay, because that's where our default is anyways. But with the practice is recognizing that, and then learning how to kind of just refocus or pushing out that thought and refocusing on a positive one. So my guess is that you will have those thoughts coming in, but the more you do it, the less and less they'll come in, and the less time they will remain in your unconscious, in a sense. And the quicker you'll be able to kind of pull back to something more positive. So that is the gist on some of the specifics that I had to bring in today. So what CAPS offers, we offer individual counseling, group counseling. Each of those, I think you can address things like performance anxiety, presentations, and how to control or manage your stress levels. You can do that in an individual basis. If a group setting is that actually can probably be positive as well, because you're in a group setting already, and so you're having to speak in front of other people, and you get feedback, interpersonal feedback from people, so that might also be something. Individual counseling, I mean, anything from very behavioral, like what the person last time was talking about. I had a sense that he was more on the behavioral side of things, and so we could do things like that, like exposure therapy or whatever you're needing or wanting on a short-term basis. Or if you're wanting to just kind of better understand why you're stressed or how you get stressed or what it is for you. Because sometimes we also will go into it and just not understand why we keep performing so poorly on something, whether it be tests or presentations or just in an interpersonal setting. And a lot of times we just don't even understand what our stress is or anxiety is. So just better understanding what is stress for me is going to help me in the future, because I will be able to counter that if I know what's going to come. If I don't, then I'm going to keep running into that same issue. So counseling can help increase your awareness levels of what those things are. Another thing that we offer is a thing called biofeedback, which is a way to measure your physiology. So you get connected to these little devices, and your physiological functioning, certain measures of that is projected on the screen. And then you're able to use that information to control your arousal levels. So bio, meaning like measuring your feedback, meaning your body, and then the feedback part is that you're getting information in real time of your body. So if someone came in and was like, I'm not stressed, but I don't know why these things are happening to me, but I'm not stressed at all. Well, the program will show the stress levels. So a lot of times there's a disconnect between our mind and our body, right? We're always on the go. So that's going to highlight those and provide information in real time for me of what works and what doesn't work for me. So if I'm like, man, people keep telling me about breathing, but it's not working for me. So I might hook them up to the biofeedback, and we might look at how are they breathing, and is it the most effective approach for them. So we might have to make adjustments to the breathing, because a lot of times we breathe up from up here as opposed to down here, and so on. And so we have to make adjustments. So the biofeedback is a really great way of doing that. And we have 3 different sites on campus that have that device free to use anytime. And the program that we have is pretty nice in that it's kind of self-run. So you could have a counselor at CAPS introduce it to you and work with you with it, but if you don't want to go through that and deal with it, you don't have to. So I passed around a card that says the house. That's one of the sites that has the device. The other is the Student Health Center. We have a CAPS clinic there, and they also have one. And then North Hall has one.
Can you use this, the biofeedback, to make yourself aware of how your body feels when you are relaxed? So kind of try to relax and then see if you truly are and make yourself conscious of how it feels?
Yes, I think so,
Kind
yes.
of work it the other way around, I mean.
Yes, and that's where I started with anxiety is not a bad thing. Because sometimes we want to increase our arousal levels, increase our anxiety, because that's going to help with performance. If I'm like very calm, very tired or something, I'm not going to be on the ball. So it's going to increase your awareness at all levels. So even if I'm down here, it's going to show that
I meant more in a way that some of us are under so much, I don't know, stress, pressure, time constraints. I mean, we're all graduate students. We don't have a life, we don't sleep, and we work all the time. I think we can all relate to that. And I feel like sometimes it's hard to us to physically figure out, okay, I'm trying, I'm breathing, is my body really relaxed? Is this how it feels? Or should I go even further? Kind of like,
this will show you, yes.
That's why I was asking.
Yes, so this will show you, basically, it's, in a sense, it'll call you out on yourself.
Mhm.
It'll be like, no,
That's
you've got some
exactly
stress
right.
going on.
Yeah.
So, and that's great, because then that gives me information of, oh, okay, I didn't realize that, but now that I know, now I can do something about it. So it's kind of empowering, yeah.
Excuse me, how are other feelings and emotions? Just about stress?
Yes, I mean, I would say that it can help with other feelings and emotions. It can help in the sense, I think that it will help clear the way to see yourself in a different way. It'll help to increase your awareness of your mind-body connection. And there's not only stress and anxiety there. We have happiness. Sometimes it's hard to express or show happiness. And there's arousal levels involved. So that's why I put distress, or could put arousal level here as well. So sometimes someone might say to me, you know, I'm having a hard time just being happy. I don't know what that's like. And so, I mean, we might get into the existential stuff about that, but behaviorally, physiologically, we can also look at that through biofeedback and to see like how to expand that person's expression of emotions through that. So we have 3 locations for that. The only tough thing is that it's business hours, so Monday through Friday. And I would say wherever you go, call ahead, because we only have 1 device per location. So either someone might not be there, or maybe the office is closed temporarily. So just to save you some time, call ahead. Yeah.
How much time would you allow for something like that?
I would say about 45 minutes. Plan for that, just so you give yourself some time to calm down, cool down, warm up. Whatever the temperature is outside, it's going to impact the sensors, and to kind of get your breathing to a more whatever your stable level is. And then also gives you some time to just sit and be with the program. So 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Anything beyond that, I'd say, you know, anyone's attention span is going to start wandering, so give it a break and do bits and pieces. So if you are thinking about that, I would say, you know, try it like once a week and see how it goes for you. But something like this, you have to give it a chance. You have to give it time. So you're not going to be able to go out and be, I don't know, thinking of a sport, the best road biker there is in the world by just getting on a bike. You have to spend hours and hours working hard on that. So same thing, it's going to take time to better understand your body through that feedback process, and it's going to take time for you to implement things to make changes. So if you do it once, you might feel relaxed afterwards, but you might not experience an enduring long-term impact. So if you are thinking, give it like a month, and say like, okay, I'm going to do it once a week for a month, or twice a week for a month, and then see how it impacts you. We have a thing called Wellness Wednesdays. So if you're around on Wednesday afternoons at the ARC, we offer these short little, they're an hour long, I guess you could call it a presentation. Sometimes it's experiential exercises on various topics. So let's see, the next one that's coming up is protect your most precious resource, make the most of your time. How to sleep like, the next following one is how to sleep like a baby, following create the life you love to live, what do you need from your love life, and so on and so on. So you're gonna learn the different aspects of who you are, what you need, from these workshops. So that's at the ARC from 5:10 to 6 on Wednesdays. You can go to our website and you can find this information there as well. And then we have a lot of stress and anxiety groups. So we have more counseling type groups, but then we also have groups that focus on stress and anxiety, so performance and things like what this class is about. So let's see here. We have one called Stop Worry from Stopping You, mindfulness meditation group, building social confidence, yoga for stress reduction, breaking free of stress and anxiety. So all of those, they're going to talk about some of these little strategies that you can implement to improve your performance, your functioning, so that stress and anxiety don't get in your way to hinder what you're doing. Is there any other questions about what CAPS can do for you, or what we were talking about earlier? Okay. So what's one thing that you're going to take away from this 30-minute talk?
Visualization.
What's that?
Visualization.
Okay, visualization. So you might actually try that. Okay. Yeah.
I'm interested in the biofeedback. I mean, I've heard about it, it's nothing new, but I've never done that. Really interesting.
Okay.
I thought it was a one-time thing, so it's interesting to hear that, no, that's something you
Yeah.
do ongoing.
Yes, and if anything, it's not a one-time thing. It's a thing that you do more. The more you do, the more powerful it can be for you.
So what is that monitoring?
It is monitoring your pulse, and through your pulse, it can calculate your heart rate.
So it's all pulse oriented.
No.
It's also respiration.
It can measure your respiration. So through your pulse, it can measure your breathing, and then it's called like a galvanic skin response. And so as our arousal stress levels increase or decrease, we have these little pores that open and close, and so it sends a signal and it can measure the speed of that, so on and so forth. So it has two measures. The one that we use has two measures of your physiology, and it can from that build some more. So that's what that is. If you are interested in using CAPS services, maybe it's for this class, that's great. There's a few different ways you can do that. Just walk in anytime during our business hours, and you should be able to meet with someone within an hour. If you come in the morning, more likely you're going to be seen quicker because you get busier as the afternoon goes on. If you're wanting to work with me personally, we can try to see if it fits in my schedule. I can give you my email address. So feel free to email me, or if you have a question, I can help point you in the right direction. Maybe you don't have to meet with me. All of our counselors over there work with graduate students. All of them work with stress and anxiety, and I think all of them can help you work through whatever you're going to work through, whether it be performance anxiety or social anxiety or stress, or just improving your performance in presentations. So maybe it's not like a major issue for you, but it'd be nice to work on. Come on over and we can see what we can do. You don't have to have a severe mental disorder, for example, to go over to CAPS. We're set up for a wide range of presentation issues, so don't feel like you're burdening us. We'll let you know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
English is actually my
not my native language. So every time I do a presentation, I always afraid that I'm forgetting the language. So it's like I'm trapping my Spanish, so I cannot speak in English. So
Yeah.
besides practicing, what else can I do?
Well, that's a good question. In 5 seconds, you can, I would say it's probably even more important than for you to do the setup for that. So practicing with friends in English. Maybe even do it in Spanish first, but because you're going to be doing it in English, maybe start doing it in English, and then with maybe someone who is a first language English speaker, so that they can say, you know, you forgot this, or you said this and it didn't quite make sense, so that they can help you see where your weak spots are. So that, again, you'll go into it more confident. So you'll know, okay, this part is a little bit trickier for me, because you know me from the previous day. If you don't do that practice and going in, yeah, I'd be kind of stressed too, not knowing if I'm going to say something right or not. So at the very least, you'll know what part you're going to struggle with if you do that practice beforehand. So I'd say the practice is probably pretty important. And then just the general stress levels that you have. The more you're, on this end, probably the more helpful it's going to be for you. Because what stress and anxiety does is it starts to impact our ability to be concentrated, to focus, to recall information. If you have to interpret in your head, that's going to be impacted by stress. So all of those things, the more you can manage your stress, probably the more your performance in English is going to be more effective. Yes?
I think for this case, it's really important, instead of worrying about your own performance, to start thinking about what is it like for your audience? Can they all understand everything you're saying? Or is it a little hard for them to understand because maybe you're speaking a little too quickly and not quite loud? So it's more important, if your first language is a different language, to speak very slowly and also very loudly. And you can get feedback from, when you do your practices, you can get feedback about whether those people are understanding what you're saying. Because it isn't really so much about whether you're performing well, it's whether your message is getting across to them.
So, that's it for me. And feel free to contact me anytime, even if it's a question or you're wanting more resources, I can forward them to you as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay.
Okay.
I am so connecting myself to the bio.
It sounds amazing. I'm absolutely going to try that. I probably will not do what I thought I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something else. So give me a second. What I wanted to talk to you about, I'm sorry, did everybody go back? Okay. I'm so tired. We've talked about anxiety, we've talked about how not to worry about your delivery, we've talked about how content is really the most important part, and content for your first presentation is going to be easy for you because it's basically done. You know who you are and you know what you're doing. So my goal for today was to talk to you about delivery for at least a little bit, because the time comes when you know, okay, I'm supposed to manage my anxiety, I'm supposed to focus on content, I'm supposed to remember about the communicative approach that Professor Motley was telling you about. But okay, there comes a point when I physically have to stand here and what do I do? What do I do with my hands? What do I do with my issues? What do I do if I don't know what to do? And how to manage my delivery so it doesn't get in the way of my content. And what I wanted to do with you today is I wanted to talk about something that Professor Alyssa Schaff, who teaches public speaking at UC Davis, came up with, and she calls it 4 C's of effective delivery. I'm going to post everything that I tell you right now on SmartSite, so don't worry about it if you don't have time to take notes. I'm going to post it today afternoon because I'm going to try to kind of rush through it to get the most important things out of the way. First thing I wanted to address before I get into the 4 C's of the effective delivery is you brought up, someone brought up outline, which I think was a very valid point. How do you work on your outline? How do you write stuff down or don't write stuff down? And my answer to this would be whatever way works for you. If bullet points don't work for you and you would rather have colorful frames with different part of your presentation printed in different colors, then do it. If you would rather type your outline, type it. If you would rather have index cards that you physically written out because it makes you feel more confident, then write them down. Make your outline work for you. Whatever you are expecting that is going to be a hard part for you, or whatever you're thinking you might have a difficulty with, try to make your outline prevent it. For instance, my biggest thing always is, if I don't get a podium, I'm always afraid that if I'm going to put something on the table, I'm not going to see it. And I don't want to do this thing where I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to talk about, and then you don't want to pick it up, because if you pick it up and do this, which I do, it gets a little annoying. So what I do is I have a backup just in case, but this is not my outline. It doesn't make noise. I can move it, and I put all the things here that I know I want to say. Nobody could read it, but it works for me. Whatever, no, literally, whatever works for you. Be selfish with your outline. It's for you. Make it be your resource. Make it be your backup. Make it be your something that's like, oh, you know what? I usually get lost with this transition. I don't know how to get from my lit review to my data. I had this really cool sentence last night when I said it to my roommate. I'm going to write this one sentence out. I'm going to just write data or the name of my last author in my lit review, and then I'm going to write my fantastic transition sentence to remember to say this one because it was really cool, and then I'm just going to write data. Because data I remember, I'm going to spend so many hours staring at it. So whatever, yeah, I'm not going to over-repeat myself. Whatever works for you, make it work. On to 4 C's of effective delivery real quick. They stand for contact, clarity, control, and confidence. Contact is eye contact. And this is really important. And Professor Motley was talking about it too, but I'm just going to mention it very briefly. Again, with the outline and with making it work for you. You want to make your audience feel like you're looking at them, but at the same time, don't have it stuck in your head so strongly, I have to look at them, I have to look at them, I have to look at them, that you end up doing this. I'm having eye contact. It's really not an eye contact. So don't be afraid to look at your outline. You know how some people do, or some people do this. I'm scanning the room. Okay. Don't make it more stressful to you than it really is. Imagine you really are talking to us. And you are. You're just talking to every one of us at the time. And try to look at your outline if you need to. If you don't know where you're going, by all means. We would rather have you look at your outline for a little bit, find yourself, calm yourself down, then go, where? Because the stressed out presenter, the presenter who makes it, we're not going to laugh at you, we're going to be very sympathetic, but at the same time it might get in the way of your content. If you're so stressed out that you have to do this one particular thing. So as to eye contact, I would say, do exactly as Professor Motley said, have a conversation with us. Imagine that you are just talking to every single one of us. And I feel like it works. But don't make it your, oh my God, biggest fear, I have to have eye contact. Clarity. Clarity is important, and I almost feel embarrassed talking about it, but at the same time, I do want to mention it. We talk about really difficult things sometimes. We come from different disciplines. We do things that are completely unpronounceable sometimes, and completely difficult and exotic. If you are citing someone, or if you're using someone else's research, or if you're talking about something that people from outside your discipline might not be familiar with, learn to pronounce it. No, I'm serious. Sometimes I want to cite someone's name, and I saw it 50,000 times, but I never actually said it. And I find myself looking at this piece of paper with someone's name being Stein, and I have no idea how to say that. It stresses me out. So kind of think through your presentation ahead of time, and if you have an issue like that, ask someone, research it. If it's someone from your department, ask them how to pronounce their name. Sometimes they're from a country that you have no idea how to pronounce their name. The same thing with difficult words. If you have something in your presentation, and I can absolutely relate to English as a second language students, because I live here. I live in the United States for 4 years, almost 5 right now. And I went through exactly the same struggle. You get up there, and in my case, you want to speak Polish, and you just wish they understood, because it would be so much easier. And this is an additional stress if we don't know how to pronounce something, if you don't know the word, or if you use the word in your research but you've never physically said it. So this is one thing for clarity. And second thing for clarity is something that I'm just going to touch on, and then I'm going to talk about it a little more when I talk about audience adaptation. Think about who you talk to. Remember, the things that you do are clear to you and probably your advisor and maybe to other people. There is a lot of other people in the world who have absolutely no idea what you do. Make sure that if you are talking to an audience that might not understand the nature of your science or the exact things that you do, you are prepared to put it in form that makes it clear. That's what I would say about clarity. Control. What I mean by control is controlling distractions. As much as Professor Motley said that delivery isn't important, if you think that you have a message to convey and you do this, you can still hear me, and you can still probably get my content, and you can still probably understand what I'm saying. But after a minute of that, you would probably want to shoot me, because that's annoying, right? Anything like that, anything that is distracting enough to take away from your content, you might want to think about ahead of time. If you visualize yourself, for instance, one very important thing to make yourself feel comfortable is wear something that makes you feel comfortable. I'm saying things that are on some level basic, but on the other level, they can all make you feel better if you think about them ahead of time. If you wear something that you know you're comfortable with, wear something you know is not going to fall off, you're not going to have to do this, you're not going to have to do this, you're not going to be really hot, you're not going to have an earring that's going to get caught and then all this issue. I had it once. I actually was wearing this, my own experience. That's not funny. I was wearing too long earrings, and I didn't know about it, and it caught on my sweater, and I didn't really know what to do because I was giving a presentation, and I was at this point where either I'm going to unhook it and everybody's going to look at me, or I'm going to rip my ear off. One way or the other, something bad is going to happen. So literally consider things like that, because this is just a little thing that can ruin your day. And finally, when it comes to confidence, it's repetitive to what Thomas already said, but I do want to encourage you and really strongly agree with him. If you don't have it, fake it. We really don't know that you're nervous unless you tell us. If you come here and you tell us that you're sorry and you're really bad at this and you are going to make mistakes, we're going to probably look at you and think, yeah, we can see that. But if you don't tell us, we're not going to know. Because we are not in your head. I am nervous. I am nervous every single time I talk to you. Do you know how nervous I am? You're graduate students. You're not even undergrads, and I'm not your TA. It makes me nervous, can you tell? And it does. I actually have the whole anticipation reaction, the sweaty thing, the knee. I do. But I don't show it so you can't tell. And we all go through this, and we all have this thing where we again, like Thomas was saying, a certain level of anxiety is good for us, so don't be afraid of it. But think about yourself as about a person who is able to fake it until you make it. It's such an American thing, but it works in this particular case. It really does work. If you don't tell us, we're never gonna know. And I guess with this, I'm going to leave you for your next presentation, which is your first presentation, which I know you are going to be great at. Get all in front of your bathroom mirrors and start. I'm going to do awesome. And then next time, yeah, we're going to introduce ourselves and everything. Do you guys have any questions?
And it's non-academic. We're actually personally introducing ourselves.
Yes. Oh, you can, by all means, mention your research. This is, by now, important part of what we do. I feel like this is so much time of our day that absolutely you tell us what your department you're from or what you're working on right now, or what, very briefly, just introduce yourself with the things that are most important to you.
Then this is an introduction that we might have among our peers in that situation. We want to, or this is something that.
This is introducing you to us. So
Okay.
this is not the
More
fictional
academic.
situation, this is the actual, yeah.
Yeah, but it's more academic, not about that, okay, where I come from, or, you know, not.
Why not? I want to know where you come from.
Yeah, but it's kind of coming, then we can.
Yeah, I would say balance it out, absolutely. Yeah.
Do we have to prepare video materials like?
For this one, no. You do not need any audiovisual aids for this presentation. So you are absolutely sufficient. You are our audiovisual aid for the presentation. Absolutely, yes. Feel free to use the board if you want to, and yeah. Any other?
And we are being filmed that we can see each other, ourselves.
Unless you
together.
absolutely do not want to, in which case we will not do that to you.
And it will not be podcast, it'll just be.
No. No, we promise. This one is not going to be podcast. I am going to post this on Smart Site, so if you guys want to take a look at it, the contact clarity control distraction thing. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, you're sitting for your presentation, you don't know what to do, just email us.